The day before the joint exam, someone tampered with the water I drank. My best friend surpassed me and secured the only guaranteed admission spot. My childhood sweetheart comforted me, saying, "It's okay. You'll have another chance with the college entrance exam." But on the day of the exam, I was kidnapped, and my childhood sweetheart missed the exam while trying to rescue me. To repay a kindness, I married my childhood sweetheart. Years later, my best friend graduated from a prestigious university and came to my wedding looking radiant. But I accidentally overheard a conversation between my childhood sweetheart and her. "Lucy, thanks to you making her miss both exams. Otherwise, I would never have been able to marry her." Lucy sneered with a mocking smile. "Who told her she's the daughter of my dad's ex-wife? If I don't trample her into the mud, how can my mom outshine that old woman?" Blinded by rage, I drove my car into them, leaving them all disabled, and was sentenced to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had reincarnated back to my senior year of high school. 1. "Andrew, let me fetch water for you. You can review 2 more major problems during this break." Lucy stood before me, speaking timidly. Without waiting for me to respond, she took the empty cup from my desk. My childhood friend Vincent walked over from the last row and sat down beside me. "Andrew, Lucy is so good to you. Even though she's perpetually second place, she's willing to give up her break time to let you practice problems." It sounds like I've taken some huge advantage of Lucy. The surrounding classmates looked over with varied expressions. Someone whispered, "Is Andrew bullying the school belle? Aren't they childhood friends?" I feel like the school beauty is acting so submissive around her. It's precisely because they grew up together that she's more susceptible to being manipulated. Vincent listened to these words, a flicker of amusement flashing through his eyes, but he pretended to be angry and loudly scolded them. "Shut up, Andrew isn't that kind of person." After silencing him, Vincent looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. "Andrew, no matter how many people misunderstand you, I'll always stand by your side." What a lunatic. 2. I ignored Vincent completely, not even lifting an eyelid. It was this very day in my past life. I drank the water Lucy handed me, then suffered such severe diarrhea that I collapsed from dehydration, missing the National College entrance exam entirely. With her strongest competitor gone, Lucy finally broke her perpetual second-place streak to claim the top score. The homeroom teacher said to me with regret, "The school knows your capabilities, but institutions have their rules that cannot be altered. You missed the exam. According to regulations, the recommendation spot goes to Lucy, including." The teacher knew my background and how much I cared about the rewards tied to ranking first in this joint exam. Her voice trembled with reluctance. "Including the privilege of 4 years tuition-free university education, it must also be given to Lucy." 3. I'm an orphan, abandoned since childhood. It was Grandma Vincent who took me in. The He family wasn't wealthy. Grandma He took me in to raise me as Vincent's child bride. This way, they wouldn't need to spend money when Vincent married in the future. At the He household, I did everything, washing clothes, cooking meals, feeding chickens, raising pigs. Yet I never had enough to eat or proper clothes to wear. Fortunately, 9-year compulsory education had become universal. The village party secretary came to the He family with the police, and only then was I able to attend school. Middle school and high school tuition was free. I just needed to work part-time during breaks to earn some living expenses. But university tuition was expensive. I've studied hard for these 3 years, all for the full tuition waiver reward during this joint college entrance exam. The He family won't pay for my college, nor will they allow me to attend university. They're afraid that if I go to college and see the world, I won't be willing to marry Vincent anymore. So they're trying every possible means to keep me trapped in this backward, impoverished mountain region. In my previous life, after missing the joint college entrance exam, I returned to school to retrieve my cup for medical testing. Yet I couldn't find the cup anywhere. Accompanied by my homeroom teacher, I went to check the classroom surveillance footage, only to be told the cameras had been broken for over a week. The last footage from the surveillance camera showed Vincent bouncing a basketball in the classroom, the ball ricocheting and smashing the camera. I wasn't without my suspicions about Vincent regarding these coincidences. It wasn't until he gave up his college entrance exams to search for me that my doubts were dispelled. Yet, who could have imagined it was all his own orchestrated performance, designed to make me feel indebted to him for life. He knew he couldn't get into college, and he couldn't focus on studying either. He was afraid that if I got into a good university, I'd climb the social ladder and leave him behind, so he conspired with Lucy to ruin my future. 5. Lucy placed a filled water cup on my desk. She gave me a timid smile, her eyes filled with cautious ingratiation. "Andrew, I mixed half hot water with half cold water for you. It's just the right temperature now. You can drink it." My gaze remained fixed on the problem set as I gave a non-committal, Couldn't be bothered to look at her. She bit her lip, her eyes instantly reddening. "Andrew, did I do something wrong? You're being so cold." Lucy was very popular in class, and with her outstanding looks, many people stood up for her. "Class monitor, what's with the attitude? The school belle doesn't owe you anything. She even fetched water for you, and you're giving her the cold shoulder. Can't you even say thank you?" Without looking up, I said, "Thank you." My critic was left speechless, and Lucy froze in surprise. The school bell rang. Lucy could only return to her seat unwillingly. I glanced at my cup, then looked at the identical one on Lucy's desk. Lucy and Vincent were from the same village, but her family was slightly wealthier than the He family. Many of my belongings were hand-me-downs from Lucy. For this, I was always grateful, even though she loved to say playfully in front of crowds, "The clothes Andrew is wearing are mine. They were too loose on me, but fit her perfectly." There were countless remarks like these. In elementary school, my classmates all mocked me for being a beggar, picking up whatever Lucy discarded, as if it were treasure. Later in middle and high school, she developed a habit of buying everything in pairs, then giving one to me. If I refused, she'd give it to Grandma He instead. I thought I had shaken off the label of a beggar, only to be called a copycat instead. Every penny I earn from odd jobs will be repaid to Lucy. I don't want to owe her anything. I've always believed that no one is perfect. Everyone has their flaws. In all matters, judge by actions rather than intentions, for no one's actions are flawless. Whatever her intentions were, at least she provided me with clothes to wear and a cup to use. Yet it wasn't until my dying breath that I learned the truth of my origins. I was actually her half-sister from the same father. All those malicious acts of hers, it turns out I hadn't been overthinking them after all. 6. Through the small mirror, I saw Lucy's venomous gaze fixed intently on my cup. I deliberately picked up the cup lid and twisted it open. Her pupils dilated slightly, and the corners of her mouth twitched with excitement. The next moment, I tightened the lid again. Her pupils constricted, her jaw clenched, and her fingers involuntarily dug into her palms. For the entire class, I kept tormenting her nerves like this, over and over. Her once clear eyes were now bloodshot by the end of class. Her body trembled uncontrollably. I found it somewhat amusing. With such poor composure, she still dared to do wicked things. When the bell rang, Lucy abruptly stood up. I instantly picked up the cup, my throat moving as I pretended to take a few sips of water. Only then did she sit back down, letting out a relieved sigh. I screwed the cap back on the cup and slumped over the desk, feigning rest. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her pulling Vincent outside. While they were away, I poured the water from the cup into an empty mineral water bottle and hid it in my school bag. The emptied cup was placed back on the table by me. When Lucy returned, she deliberately walked past me and picked up my cup. The lighter weight made her unable to contain her joy. Andrew, let me get you some more water. With that, she took my cup and ran out smiling. 7. During the next class, I pretended to clutch my stomach in pain while letting tears fall. In the mirror, Lucy couldn't help curling her lips into a smile, exchanging a glance with Vincent in the back row. Seeing the opportune moment, I couldn't help but clutch my stomach and stand up to ask the English teacher for leave. Teacher, my stomach suddenly hurts so much. The English teacher was my favorite teacher and also my homeroom teacher. In my previous life, he went out of his way to pull strings for my sake. Even in the end, when I missed the college entrance exam. He even went to the He family to find Grandma He, saying he was willing to pay for me to repeat the year. But Grandma He hit him on the head with a broom and chased him out. Not only that, Grandma He even went to the school and made such a scene that everyone knew, claiming the homeroom teacher had ulterior motives toward me. The homeroom teacher was suspended and even reported by parents for verbal abuse. Yet even so, when Vincent took me south for work, the homeroom teacher still sent me messages of encouragement. Andrew, you missed the college entrance exam, but you haven't missed your entire life. You can still return to campus through self-study exams or other means in the future through your own efforts. Life is long. Never give up on yourself. Now, seeing me in such a disheveled state, drenched in sweat and with unstoppable tears, my homeroom teacher immediately contacted the school nurse to take me away. Having experienced the pain of dehydration in my past life, acting it out this time around required no effort at all. Lucy and Vincent came to see me, and only when they saw me running back and forth to the bathroom with a pale face did they finally feel reassured enough to return to class. During the last evening self-study session, I asked my homeroom teacher for leave to be hospitalized at an outside medical facility. My homeroom teacher lamented in the classroom. How could this happen? Andrew actually had to be hospitalized at such a critical time. Tomorrow is the joint examination. I must go check on her. After the homeroom teacher left, Lucy and Vincent were overjoyed. On her way back, Lucy even began humming a tune. I didn't attend the morning self-study session the next day. Lucy saw that my seat was empty and felt a weight lift from her heart. Our exam halls were in different schools. Because I was ill, the homeroom teacher insisted on personally escorting me to the exam hall. I didn't return to school until after the exams were over. Lucy saw me and couldn't wait to come over, saying sadly, Andrew, what a shame. How could you miss the exam? I smiled. It's okay. There's still the college entrance exam. She sighed and said deliberately with pride, this joint exam involves recommendation for admission, not to mention full tuition waiver. As the class bell rang, she returned to her seat and found a note tucked under her cup. It was me. I'd woken up early to imitate Vincent's handwriting and write, enjoy your drink, Lucy. I poured all the water I'd previously replaced with mineral water into Lucy's cup. She sipped from her cup, her lips curled into a sweet smile. As Vincent walked past Lucy with a basketball in his arms, she blushed and blinked at him. Vincent scratched the back of his head in confusion and smiled back. Lucy became even more convinced that the note had come from Vincent. In less than one class period, Lucy had already finished drinking an entire glass of water. When class ended, she had just stood up to look for Vincent when she suddenly clutched her lower abdomen, collapsed to her knees, and began convulsing. Clutching her stomach, she scrambled up from the floor and ran toward the restroom. She didn't return for 2 full class periods. The homeroom teacher sent someone to look for her. They finally found her in the corridor outside the restroom. She was dehydrated and unconscious, just like me in my past life. Vincent frowned as Lucy was carried out. He walked up to me and asked, Andrew, why does Lucy's condition look so much like yours back then? Only much worse? His voice wasn't quiet, and many in the class heard it. Yeah, class president, did you infect the school bell or something? Don't infect us. The college entrance exams are coming up soon. We can't afford to get sick. Andrew, if you're sick, you should just drop out and go home. Don't hold everyone back. Everyone knows you're an orphan. How poor can you be? Who knows if you've got some contagious disease you can't afford to treat? Maybe the school beauty got too close to you and caught whatever you have. Accusations and curses rose in waves around us. I looked at Vincent, but there wasn't a trace of sympathy in his eyes for me. His mood visibly improved as the voices humiliating me grew louder and more vicious. Vincent always says he loves me, that I'm the most important person in his life. Yet his love always puts me in awkward situations. Seeing the homeroom teacher walk in at this moment, the classmates immediately said, "Teacher, Lucy's condition is exactly the same as Andrew's back then. It must have been Andrew who infected her. We're all about to take the college entrance exams. What if she infects us? Make her take a leave of absence, or we'll collectively call the Education Bureau to protest." Vincent loved trapping me in situations where everyone would despise me. And every time this happened, he would appear like a hero descending from the heavens, standing in front of me, shielding me. Yet all these storms were brought by him in the first place. I watched his performance with cold eyes. Sure enough, the next second, he stood before me with his back turned. "What nonsense are you talking about? Andrew isn't an orphan. She's been adopted by my family. I won't allow you to spread such rumors. Andrew doesn't have any illness. Last time she just had food poisoning, and now Lucy clearly has the same symptoms. It's obviously food poisoning." Vincent turned to look at me gently. "Andrew, as long as I'm here, no one will bully you." The classmates still wanted to speak, but the homeroom teacher forcefully slammed the book in her hand on the desk. "Do you have proof? Do you have evidence that Andrew infected Lucy? How dare you spread baseless accusations? Have all these years of education gone to waste?" The classroom instantly fell silent. Someone couldn't help but whisper, "But their symptoms are clearly the same." The homeroom teacher raised her voice. "I personally accompanied Lucy to the hospital for her 4-drip and all the tests the night she fell ill. Do you think I would know whether she's actually sick or not? I pulled out the medical report from that day. Everyone can take a good look at this. After you're done reading, those who were barking like dogs earlier better remember to apologize to me." After the classmates passed it around, they reluctantly shut their mouths. The form finally ended up in Vincent's hands. It was clearly stated that I had no illness whatsoever. The homeroom teacher said angrily, "Andrew just had pre-exam syndrome, which caused stomach pain and the need to use the restroom. How could that be the same as Joe Rant's situation?" The classmates all fell silent. After reading the list, the smile instantly vanished from Vincent's eyes. He suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. I met his gaze with cold indifference. He felt a chill run down his spine under my gaze. "Andrew, you." I looked at him with disgust. "Vincent, get the hell away from me. You make me sick." With that, I returned to my seat and started working on practice problems. Let Vincent endure the scrutinizing gazes of his classmates and homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher said unhappily, "Vincent, Andrea is the hope of the entire school. If she gets into a good university, she'll inspire so many younger students. Can you please stop holding her back? I'm begging you as your teacher. Her test scores are 3 1/3 times yours. How can you even face her?" Vincent turned pale and staggered back to his seat. All day long, his gaze haunted me like a ghost. When classmates asked him to visit Lucy at the hospital together, he refused to go. Vincent and I are different. I got into this high school through my own efforts, while his family paid to get him admitted. Before he transferred to our school, everyone knew about my orphan background, but no one ever mocked or laughed at me. They even collectively raised funds for me and encouraged me to study hard. Ever since Vincent arrived, any boy who got close to me, he would go tell them that I was picked up by his grandmother. I was his child bride. I was meant to marry him someday. Having eaten the He family's rice, I became one of their own. High school life was austere for everyone. Especially in key high schools, there's endless tutoring every day and piles of unfinished test papers. Under such intense, high-pressure conditions, when such gossip emerged, it practically swept through the entire grade. I became the laughingstock of everyone. Everyone started teasing Vincent the moment they saw me. "Vincent, your child bride is here." The jeers made me uncomfortable, my fragile self-esteem being ground underfoot. Vincent, however, seemed to enjoy it, especially with Lucy fanning the flames. Everyone's impression of me became very poor. They said I bullied Lucy out of jealousy for her beauty. The label of copycat haunted my youth like an inescapable nightmare, following me like a shadow. Escaping these mountains and getting out of this county town became my only hope for survival throughout high school. 11. When school let out in the afternoon, Vincent approached me, employing his usual tactics. To be fair, Vincent is quite good-looking. He knows his strengths and excels at playing the victim in front of me. Every time, before I could even feel sorry for him, another girl stood up for her. "Andrew, Grandma made dinner and said to wait for you to come home to eat." I packed my books into my school bag. "I'm not going back. Vincent, I'll never go back again." A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what it says." I handed him a form stamped with the official seal of the relevant department. It clearly stated the termination of the adoption relationship. "Vincent, I have no connection with the He family anymore, and I have nothing to do with you either. If you keep spreading nonsense about me being your child bride and saying I'll marry you someday, I'll sue your grandmother for child trafficking and unlawful confinement." The He family member stared at the words on the watch, lips trembling. Andrew, how could you do this? My grandmother raised you all these years. How can you be so ungrateful? And now you're slandering her like this. More and more classmates gathered around to watch the commotion. School lets out for a day and a half every Friday. So many students from other classes come to ours to wait for their friends. Now both inside and outside the classroom, crowds have gathered to watch the commotion. Vincent's voice was loud, and they all heard it. Once again, voices rose up to condemn me. Vincent wasn't good at academics, but he was exceptionally skilled at the art of subtle insinuation. He always positioned people on the moral high ground to criticize them, then placed himself in the most innocent position. I sneered. Your grandmother only took me in to save on your future bride price when you grew up. I came to your house and started learning to cook on a stool at the age of 4. I didn't even have decent clothes to wear. In the dead of winter, my feet turned blue from the cold, while you could warm yourself by the fire. When it was time for school, you got to go, while I had to stay home cutting pigweed and feeding chickens. The village party secretary came several times, saying compulsory education meant I should attend school. But your grandmother wouldn't even register me for a household registration, afraid I might run away. The village party secretary finally said your grandmother had no legal guardianship over me, and they were going to send me to an orphanage. Your grandmother was afraid I'd run away, so she finally registered my household registration. Only when the police came to our door was I able to attend school. I was only 16 years old in my first year of high school. Vincent flushed with shame and anger, suddenly glaring at me fiercely as he shouted. Shut up, I sneered, completely unafraid, though my eyes grew increasingly red as I spoke. Why shouldn't I say it? Didn't you accuse me of being ungrateful? Didn't you say your grandmother raised me? When I was just 14, your grandmother locked you in my room in the middle of the night. She wanted you to force yourself on me, to take my body so I couldn't escape, so I'd have no choice but to marry you. If I hadn't stabbed myself with scissors and scared you, you and your grandmother would have ruined me long ago. You just think that since this involves my reputation, and as a girl I care about face, I'd be too ashamed to speak up. That's why you've been acting so brazenly, isn't it? Vincent, I don't care about saving face anymore. I just want to study hard for college entrance exams and live my life well. You say your grandmother raised me, but have I ever spent a single dollar of your family's money all these years? My tuition and living expenses are fully covered by scholarships. I spend all my free time working part-time jobs, and when I return to your house, I have to do all the chores. Even your grandmother takes my money. What kindness or obligation does your family owe me? What loyalty? I pressed forward step by step, my words ringing with conviction. The previously silent classroom erupted instantly with curses directed at Vincent. Have you no shame, Vincent? After all the things you've been saying about yourself outside. You've made everyone think you and the class president were an item when it was just your own wishful thinking. Isn't this just human trafficking? The class president's grades are so good, Vincent should take a look at himself. What kind of toad does he think he is? The class monitor has it worse than child laborers. One insult after another was hurled at Vincent's face. After all, he was just a high school senior. At that age when reputation and pride mean everything, when self-esteem runs high. He kicked over the nearby desk with a furious roar, shoving through the crowd as he stormed out. The desk belonged to the class's sports committee representative. The sports rep grabbed Vincent by the collar. What the hell, Vincent? Throwing a tantrum. Why the fuck did you kick my desk? Don't you have your own desk? Vincent punched the sports committee member in the face. Let go of me, you bastard. The two started brawling, inevitably involving nearby classmates in the scuffle. Male classmates who'd always disliked Vincent quickly joined the fight. It quickly escalated from a fight between two people to a group brawl. Vincent's pained voice reached me, but I acted as if I hadn't heard, leisurely packing up my things. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and left through the back door, only to run into the homeroom teacher standing at the entrance. He looked at me with a complicated expression in his eyes. I don't know how long I listened. I opened my mouth, then lowered my gaze. Through 2 lifetimes, I've always felt ashamed before this mentor of mine. He placed great expectations on me and spared no effort to help me these past 3 years. 9 years of compulsory education only waived my tuition fees. There were still living expenses and textbook fees at school, especially the photocopying fees for printed exam papers at our prestigious high school, which were a significant financial burden for me. In my previous life, I thought it was because my homeroom teacher had repeatedly petitioned the principal that my living expenses, textbook fees, and photocopying fees were waived. It wasn't until many years later when I returned home and met retired teachers from the school that I learned the truth. At first, the principal only agreed to waive my living expenses. All other fees were secretly covered by my homeroom teacher. Not only that, seeing that I spent my 1 day off each week doing odd jobs, physically demanding manual labor, he found out and invited me to tutor his elementary school son at his home for payment. It's laughable to say, but I didn't understand this matter until I grew up. The homeroom teacher had been teaching for years. Couldn't he handle teaching an elementary school child? He was clearly sparing no effort to help me. Yet he still cared for my fragile, youthful pride. Now, having lived 2 lives, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow when meeting his gaze. He reached out and patted my shoulder. Andrew, golden phoenixes can emerge from mountain villages, and phoenix trees grow in valleys. You will surely live the life you desire. His eyes were slightly red, and my gaze swept over the classmates nearby. Their eyes were either filled with shame or guilt, yet not a single one held mockery. 12. That night, I was sleeping soundly in the dormitory. The dorm supervisor asked me to come down and take the phone call. On the other end of the line was Vincent's voice, trembling with grievance. Andrew, don't hang up. I have something to tell you. You already know, don't you? Lucy drugged you. But none of this was my doing, Andrew. You can't take it out on me. I suppressed my disgust. Our accomplices not guilty too. His voice choked up. Andrew, I was just afraid you'd leave me. I feared that after getting into a good university, you'd meet new people and abandon me. I truly can't live without you. I let out a cold laugh. Vincent, I was never with you in the first place. Could you stop being so narcissistic? He gasped sharply. You're still angry with me, aren't you? And about the college entrance exams, Andrew, the top 10 scorers still get their tuition sponsored. Even if no one sponsors you, I'll earn the money to put you through school myself. I'll show you my determination to make it up to you, Andrew. Without waiting for his response, I hung up the phone. 13. After Lucy returned to school, she cornered Vincent during break. You didn't come visit me at the hospital these past few days. Vincent glanced at me and spoke to her impatiently, as if trying to distance himself. Can you just stay away from me? Lucy's eyes instantly reddened. What do you mean? If I hadn't drunk the water you gave me, I wouldn't have gotten sick. Vincent shoved her away. Are you out of your mind? Who said I fetched water for you? He looked at me pleadingly. Andrew, I swear I never fetched water for her. I chuckled and ignored her. Lucy snapped out of it, strode over in a few steps, and grabbed my wrist forcefully. It was you, wasn't it? I slapped her hand away with all my strength. I don't understand what you're saying, Lucy said angrily. Are you getting back at me? Why would I get back at you? What did you do to make me want revenge? How puzzling. Lucy raised an eyebrow. She glanced at Vincent, who averted his gaze. Lucy sneered. Andrew, aren't you afraid I'll call the police? Your life would be ruined. I smiled. Then go check the surveillance footage. Vincent was so guilty, he didn't even dare look at me, slipping out directly through the back door. In the classroom, only Lucy and I remained. Lucy stood with her arms crossed, looking down at me with superiority. Who would have thought, Andrew? You've been putting on quite the act all these years. Turns out holding grudges is your true nature. But no matter how much you try to get back at me, what's the point? You still missed the joint entrance exam. The top spot is mine. The school's only recommendation quota is mine. The 4-year full tuition waiver is mine too. I actually don't need the college entrance exam rewards at all, but I know it's your lifeline. That's precisely why I won't give it to you. Just wait to rot in this backwater town for the rest of your life. I let out a careless laugh. Oh, really? We'll see about that. Lucy lifted her chin and let out a contemptuous laugh. Keep pretending you're fine. The joint exam results were announced during evening self-study. The homeroom teacher placed the printed score sheet on the lectern. He smiled as he held the insulated cup. Come up and take a look, everyone. Lucy sat smugly in her seat, staring motionlessly at me with a challenging glint in her eyes. I took a sip of water and didn't move either. Let the other students crowd around the podium to check the score sheet. Lucy waited for her classmates to gasp at her name. But what came instead was... The gap between first and second place is huge. Over 100 points difference, my God. Lucy couldn't suppress the smile tugging at her lips. But the next second, the class president is amazing. The school beauty isn't even in the same league. Lucy's face flushed crimson as she stood up. What are you saying? This can't be. She frantically pushed her classmates aside, rushed to the podium, grabbed the score sheet, and stared at it wide-eyed, reading it over and over again. No matter how hard she hit her head, no matter how many times she closed and opened her eyes, all I could see was still the word Andrew. Her hands trembled as she stared at me with bloodshot eyes, utterly broken. She rushed up to me and raised her hand to strike. You lied to me, Andrew. You lied to me. I grabbed her hand and whispered expressionlessly in her ear. You know why I didn't retaliate against you on the day of your entrance exam, don't you? Because I have more than enough strength to crush you. Let me show you the difference between you and me. Lucy, if you're not as skilled as others, you should admit it. I shook off her hand, and she collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, just like the me from my previous life. In my past life, when I woke up to find I had missed the joint exam, my world collapsed, leaving me in utter darkness. Fortunately, there was still the college entrance exam. After missing the college entrance exam, I just wanted to die. Later, Vincent and I went south to work, and I kept earning money to study for the self-taught exams. The joint exam questions and college entrance exam questions I missed that year. For many years thereafter, I could recite it backwards and forwards, because that was the life I missed. 14. When Vincent returned from sports practice and learned I ranked first in the joint exam, he froze for several seconds before falling silent. Unlike Lucy, who had an emotional breakdown with screams and shouts, he remained composed. But I was greeted by an unexpected visitor, Lucy's father. In the principal's office, the man smiled at me. He owned a large supermarket in the city, and his hometown was just a few steps away from the He family's place. I had called him Brian for 18 years. He watched as I was abused by the He family, even nearly becoming an unregistered citizen, yet never showed me an ounce of pity. From the gossip of the villagers, I pieced together the story of Brian's ex-wife, my mother. She died from massive hemorrhaging during a difficult childbirth. Both mother and child gone. Less than half a month after my death, Brian brought home a heavily pregnant woman on the verge of giving birth. That woman was Lucy's mother. After the principal left, only Brian and I remained in the office. He looked at me with a smile, his face full of paternal affection. You've grown up, truly outstanding. You're the first child from our village to get into a prestigious university, really remarkable. He looked at me with increasing satisfaction, not as if gazing at his daughter, but rather at his own prestige, his medal of honor. I distanced myself and asked, "Brian, is there something you need?" He let out a sigh, his eyes instantly reddening. "Andrew, the truth is, I'm your father. I couldn't acknowledge you before, because of Lily. Now that you're grown, and about to enter university, even if she divorces me, I must claim you as my son. I don't believe you. Having lived 2 lifetimes, acting was second nature to him now." Brian took me to the hospital for a DNA test, and when the results came out, I threw myself into his arms and cried. "Dad, you don't know how much I wished you were my father when I was little, watching you dote on Lucy. I never thought you really were my dad." Brian took me back to the small villa he had built in the countryside. Lucy couldn't contain her rage when she saw me, completely losing control as she rushed over and shoved me. I let myself fall to the ground, silent tears streaming down. Brian was furious beyond words, slapping Lucy across the face. "She's your elder sister. How dare you? Get back to your room this instant." Lucy left in tears, while Lily beside her nearly ground her teeth to dust. With Brian's help, I successfully transferred my household registration out of the He family. Grandma, he had stubbornly refused to agree at first. Brian opened a supermarket and hired some local thugs to protect the store. Vincent was beaten several times on his way home, his face bruised and swollen from being ambushed with a sack over his head. The worst beating broke his leg. "Granny," he wailed and pleaded before finally handing over my household registration booklet. I successfully transferred my household registration out of the He family. What was as difficult as climbing to heaven for me was a piece of cake for Brian. Set a thief to catch a thief. After securing early admission, I no longer needed to attend school. I stayed at home, cooking meals and brewing soups for Brian every day, playing the role of a dutiful daughter to perfection. These were all things Lucy had never done in her daily life. Lucy was very spoiled, and with her as a comparison, every little good thing I did would be magnified in Brian's eyes. And as Lucy listened to Brian's praises of me every day, her emotions grew increasingly worse and more unstable. She couldn't stand me showing attentions to Brian, nor could she bear Brian treating me kindly. She couldn't tolerate seeing our father-daughter affection. She would make scenes, cry, smash plates and bowls. Then Brian would scold her, sometimes even resorting to violence in severe cases. And so, every day in the Sue household fell into an endless cycle. Under this emotional pressure, Lucy simply couldn't focus on studying. On the day of the college entrance exams, I showed up right on time. She glared at me angrily. "What are you doing here?" I smiled, taking the exam again, to show you that losing to me wasn't just a coincidence. I looked into her eyes. "But reality," I continued, "you're just my defeated opponent. Every time, you'll lose to me. That's your fate. Lucy, you must accept your fate." Her eyes burned with anger and hatred, but beneath it all lay fear and terror. I stepped into the examination hall, while she remained frozen in place. I messed with her head. When the college entrance exam results came out, Lucy scored over 200 points less than me, barely scraping into a Tier 1 university. Brian looked somewhat disdainful. "Couldn't even get into a top-tier university? I've invested so much in you over the years. The tutoring fees alone could have bought an apartment in the city. Useless waste." Lucy broke down in uncontrollable sobs. I brought out the soup I had prepared. "Dad, don't be angry. Have some soup first. You're not in good health. You must take care of yourself." Lily was so furious she knocked over my soup, and we came to blows. Brian slapped him back. The house was in complete chaos. I packed my bags at night, deliberately making as much noise as possible. Sure enough, Brian came out to see me and asked what I was doing. I whispered through tears, "I've already lost Mom, and now you're all I have left. Though I truly want to live with you, Dad, I don't want to disrupt your life. I've found a part-time job at an educational institution in Beijing. I'll call you often to check on you when I have time." Brian wiped his tears with the back of his hand and handed me a bank card. "There's 150,000 in this card. Use it for now, and let me know if it's not enough." I politely exchanged pleasantries for a while before accepting it. During my college years, my outstanding academic performance gave Brian plenty of face among his rural relatives. With me as comparison, Lucy became the problem child. Brian and Lucy's mother frequently quarreled. What kind of feelings could a man who cheated on his wife and abandoned his family possibly have? No one knows how many women Brian has on the side. I perfected the art of sweet-talking while staying ruthless, manipulating Brian into funding my education all the way through graduate school, doctoral studies, and eventually studying abroad. For someone like Brian who's uneducated yet obsessed with saving face, the prestige of academic credentials holds extraordinary weight. After returning from studying abroad, I started working at Brian's supermarket. Within 2 years, I successfully transferred all of Brian's assets, turning the supermarket into an empty shell. And then I left this place for good. My household registration had already been transferred with my university enrollment long ago. Lucy's mother divorced Brian, driving him nearly insane. Years of alcohol and debauchery had drained his health. Terminally ill, he made countless calls to me. I reluctantly answered his call just before changing my SIM card. He asked me for medical expenses, begging me to save him. I just smiled and said, "Brian, my mother died 18 years ago. You've lived 18 extra years. Hurry up and go keep her company. You won't get a single cent from me while you're alive, but after you die, I'll pay whatever's needed for your funeral arrangements." Before he could curse me, I hung up the phone. He didn't survive the winter. On the day he died, I stepped back into the city I had once loathed so deeply. At Brian's funeral, I wrote my mother's name. The hired opera singers, drummers, and scripture chanters were all arranged for my mother. I also had my mother's grave rebuilt. The arriving guests were all stunned, yet none dared to say a word. The opera performance on stage was at its climax, and the guests at the banquet tables were enjoying their meals heartily. Lucy suddenly rushed at me, grabbed a knife, and began stabbing toward me. It was Vincent who pushed me aside. The two of them grappled fiercely, and Lucy's knife severed Vincent's hand. Andrew, Lucy is so good to you. Even though she's perpetually second place, she's willing to give up her break time to let you practice problems. Thinking, Vincent smiled at me before being taken away by the ambulance. Andrew, glad you're okay. I smirked sarcastically. Another scheme planned by you and Lucy, huh? You really went all out this time, Vincent. What if the hand can't be reattached? His face instantly turned deathly pale, his lips parting painfully as if to speak, before finally pressing together in silent defeat. Andrew, I'm sorry. Don't. It disgusts me. After the funeral ended, I buried Brian far, far away. Back when he buried my mother, there wasn't even a tombstone, just a small mound of earth. Now I'm treating him the same way. I lied to him. After death, I couldn't bring myself to spend money on him either. After all, I've been dirt poor my whole life. Surely, Brian would understand me. The end.